Hey guys, it's Shannon with Evolution Canine Academy here, and today we're going to be talking about recall. In this video, I have had a lot of questions about recall in my lessons here lately, so this is going to be the next video we release on YouTube to help act as a supplement for my current students who are taking lessons from me that want to keep going and learn more. And this video would be good for anybody new as well, trying to teach their dog a new skill set. So of recall, coming when called. My goal with these videos is to help give information so people stop struggling with their dogs. There's no reason for you to feel frustrated. Dog training can be simple and straightforward. There's just a lot of misinformation out there online and misleading information. So I am here to break down these concepts and make them simpler for you to understand and to teach your dog. So let's get into it. So with recall, you essentially just want your dog to come to you no matter what, right? No matter what the distractions are. If I say my dog's name followed by the word come, I want you to come to me. So that's the criteria for recall that I have with my dogs, with my board and trained dogs, or with my own dogs. Some people have here as their recall command, or let's go. I just used come. So you can pick your word, stick to it, but we're going to talk about the ways to teach recall first, the steps involved, how to troubleshoot some things, and then I'm going to show you guys some videos of the actual training being done on different types of dogs at different levels. So what we need to do first, and we need to understand about recall, is you're asking your dog to come to you when the environment is probably pretty rewarding. So the first thing with training any new command is that you want to start off inside the house first. So there's criteria for recall, meaning we want to teach the command consistently and make sure our timing is good, and make sure we actually practice this, and make sure we set aside time to teach this command. The other side of recall is behaviorally. How does your dog do at home when they're not in the command? Recall is kind of like a behavioral skill. So if your dog gets away with a lot of stuff in the house, they're going to be less likely to listen to you out of the house. So a lot of this comes from changing small things in the home while you're teaching this skill to help your dog know that your voice matters and that you will hold them accountable and that it's more beneficial to listen. And that's all we're trying to do, is trying to teach our dogs that if they listen and make better choices, they still retain their freedom. They still get more out of it. Okay. So first thing is first, we want to teach them what come means. If you haven't even worked with your dog yet, I use a communication system. There's information on my blog about this. Basically a verbal marking system. It's not too much different than most other trainers. I use yes or good to mark information, to mark a good choice from my dog. So if they sit, when I say sit, I say good or yes, and I treat them. So that becomes my clicker, essentially, just my verbal clicker to mark things that I want to increase behavior-wise. On the other side of that, I have my neutral or negative marker word for making the wrong choice for non-compliance, essentially is no. I use no or So you can use either one of those as a marker word to help your dog understand how to make a different choice. The third word is a release word. Basically just means when I tell you to wait or stay, or when there's a boundary, when I say this release word, you can get up or be free, whatever that is. So that's the communication system. First and foremost, your dog needs to understand that these words have power. Most of the time with any behavioral problem or any command that we're having trouble with, most of the time it's because your dog doesn't know what no means. Right? And that's usually what I get, is I hear people say, well, my dog did this, I said no, and they didn't listen. Well, if they listen to no, a lot of your life is going to get easier if they start listening to you when you say no, in the same way that they listen to you when you say yes, right? So we want to build them up, teach them what this word means, start in the house, call them to you, big party, lots of treats, release them to their freedom. Call it a catch and release game. You're just being very simple, low pressure about this. It's got to be treats that your dog's sees as high value or worth listening to. 5 minutes a day. Call your dog to you, release them. And this is like super close, 5 feet away, not like 2 stories above you. Like start off super close and reward, reward, reward. We want to build these guys up with treats before we start telling them that they're wrong. So you give them the information they need to listen to the command. Okay, and then once once you can see that they know what it means, they're like, oh, okay, every time I say come, even though it's easy and I give them treats, they seem to really understand that this is what I want. The next step is to take the treats away. All of this is still being done in the house because what's going to happen is every dog is going to decide that treats are not worth it at some point. Every single dog, it's a very normal part of their learning development, is that every dog's going to say, the treat, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth it. Things in my environment are more reinforcing. I just don't want to do it. So you have to teach your dog how to get through that part of the learning, how to get through, I don't want to do it without a treat. And you have to teach them that it is actually worth doing it without a treat because you'll get more out of it in the long run. Most dogs just don't understand the concept of no. Most dogs have learned that no is scary or weird or bad. And in my house, it doesn't mean that. It just means fix your behavior and you can resume your freedom and actually still get more stuff. So the concept of no is something that I think a lot of people shy away from either teaching or talking about because it's not necessarily societally acceptable to talk about punishment or consequences with your dog, right? But it doesn't have to be a big deal to your dog. And just like we can tell our kids no and still love them and still give them everything they need and they still have a great relationship with us, people can also misuse and abuse the communication system in both kids and dogs alike, right? So my dogs learn that no is not a big deal. And the worst punishment they ever get is to go up to their room for timeout. Okay, so first and foremost, no tends to be something that most dogs just don't get still, and we'll talk about that later. But essentially, how you teach your dog to understand they still have to listen to the command without treats, you're just going to make it happen. And this is why you have to start in the home first. I like to leave the leash dragging in the house for this. When you start to wean them off treats, put the leash on, let it drag, because they're gonna ignore you. They're just gonna do it. At that point, then you can actually go up and use the leash and give them a little pop and say, hey, I was talking to you. I asked you to come. I know maybe I don't have a treat, but you're still going to do it. And if they look back at you after that little bit of information from the leash, then encourage them to come back to you. Yes, cool. This is all I wanted. This was great. Now you can resume your freedom. When they get to me, I reward and release. The only time I'm correcting my dog for not listening when I call them to me is immediately when they ignore. And then that's it. So a scenario, I say, come, you'll see it in the video, the dog ignores, my next thing is okay? If the dog ignores again, then I pick up the leash and I do a little pop until I can get a connection back. And if the dog looks back at me, I say, yeah, hi, I'm still here. I'm going to keep doing this until you actually decide that coming back to me is what you're going to do on your own, instead of me having to pull the dog all the way back. You're basically just out persisting them. You're saying, I know you know this. I know you know this skill because we spent so much time on it. Now that you don't get a treat, you still have to do it, right? So that's called a consequence, right? You just do it even though there's no treat. You still have to do it. That's the consequence, right? Ultimately, your dog has to learn how to be told no and how to fix their choice in a controlled, calm environment. This is why we keep saying, work in your house first. Leave the leash on in the house. When I bring, and we don't just say this for you guys, as trainers, we do this too. We take a dog into our house and we let the leash drag. And I just had a dog here for a board and train. And as soon as I got in the house, I brought him in on leash and then I just let the leash go. And I just watched him go around my house and observed him and was able to get in there if I needed to. Right? So we let the leash drag. That way we can teach him that our voice matters. We want to have voice control in the house. Right? Having a leash on does not mean you're using the leash and that they know the leash is attached, because we're not physically grabbing the leash and bringing them back to the spot we called them from. We're just using it as follow-up feedback to tell them, hey buddy, I'm still here. I need you to come to me on your own. I need you to do it. I'm not going to give up, right? And that's your job. You're not going to give up. You're going to keep giving feedback, keep giving communication until your dog changes their mind. The first time that you do this, if your dog's really stubborn, may seem like it takes forever. Do not give up. If you give up, it'll be harder next time. Just do it. Just do it until your dog is like, cool, that wasn't the end of the world. Because worst case, they just get poked and prodded with the leash. They're like, hey, hi, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave you alone until you listen. Then when they end up coming back to you, I give them a praise party. Woohoo! That's all I wanted. Cool, okay, go be free and go play again. And usually when I do that, the dog's like, what the hell just happened? She's releasing me? I didn't listen. It's important though. Everything in dog training is giving them feedback when we're telling them no, and then letting them make a choice again to see if that actually mattered. You wouldn't tell your kid no and then allow them to do what you told them no to. It makes your no invalid, right? So you got to make sure you hold them accountable to that. So in the home, all this is in the home first. They've got to know you got to hold them accountable. And this is how it translates into behavior at home. If your dog gets away with murder in the house, they're not going to recall to you. If your dog barks at the door for no reason or barks at a leaf blowing by and doesn't stop barking, if your dog parkours around your furniture and doesn't listen to you, if your dog has massive ADD and can't even focus on you for 1 second, then you need to work on the foundations first. You need to work on the communication system. Your dog needs to have structure. Your dog needs to know what no means. You need to be relevant in your dog's world. And if you give your dog too much freedom, if you're overly permissive, you're not relevant in your dog's world, and they're not going to listen to you. So that's the biggest difference there. There's steps to do recall. I have them on my blog. There's free information. It kind of goes over this as well. There's steps. Teach the command first. Treat them up. Take the treats away. Hold them accountable. Give your positive and negative feedback. Then transfer all of that. Do it all over again outside. Okay, and you would leave the leash on, a long line. Let the long line drag, step on it. Okay, once your dog knows those, you'll see in the videos that I'll release after this that you'll see a long line that we use when the dogs translate to outside. So the dog goes on a long line, we step on it to make to give communication, to give feedback. It's called hands-free leash walking, meaning we just let it drag. But we try not to use it with our hands to like pull the dog back, right? So you'll see a little bit of that. You'll see how we go through doing that. And, you know, if you follow all these little policies and protocols, you're going to be fine. It's not that hard to teach off-leash skills. It's not, I can do this in a board and train in less than 2 weeks without any tools, just voice control. Depending on what you use, you can use an e-collar and teach this in a week. Less than a week. Regardless of what you're using tool-wise, you need to be able to communicate with your dog. The foundations across the board are your dog needs to know what yes means. They need to know what no means. And then in addition to that, how is their behavior throughout the day? Are they doing things that you're not addressing that they're getting away with? Are they not listening to you in general? Do they not have any space with you? Do they invade your personal space? Do they jump on you? Do they mouth you? Do they mark you? Do they jump on the couch on you? There's a lot that goes into dog training that comes down to their little things, the little things that matter. It's the little things that add up to the big things. So if you're struggling, keep that in mind. Adding structure to your dog's life could be as simple as just crating them when you're gone, getting them out of the bedroom, feeding them in their kennels, having some routines, so giving them some downtime in there. Structure your dog's life in addition to teach them the obedience skills, and you're going to get a much better results from that. But in a nutshell, they have to be held accountable. The only way to teach a dog to listen without treats is to give corrective feedback, is to create a consequence. And the consequence essentially is I will come get you. That's all that happens, is that I'm going to make it happen by bringing you back to me or convincing you to come back to me. So hopefully this video helped you a little bit. Hopefully the next few videos you can watch me doing some of the training done with the long line work. I've had a few people ask me about long line work outside and how to translate. So if your dog already has a communication system formed, you've practiced recall, it's just a matter of they just blow you off, but you know they know it, you can go ahead and do the long line outside. But ultimately, it's most likely because they still don't value the word no. Either you're still letting them get away with even one thing during the day, or they just don't care. They have too much freedom. Why would a dog want to listen if there's no reason for them to modify their behavior? If they get everything they want, there's no reason to do that. So keep that in mind too. Hopefully this helped. I'll have more videos out for you soon. As always, let me know if you have any questions, comments below. Like and follow my YouTube channel, keep you up to date, release more videos for you, help keep you guys going with your training. But I hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and I am very grateful for you all. Bye-bye. Tilly, come. Good. Good. Good girl. Okay, break. That'll do. Good girl. Tilly, come. Good. Good. Okay, break. So what I'm doing with this long line is just using it to communicate again. I immediately put her back on it and just walked outside with the little scoop. Just kind of walking with it is a technique. Don't get tangled in it. But again, it makes me feel a little more comfortable when you, in the beginning, then use that. Otherwise, this is a technique to make sure that the long line is always kind of within your ability to step on it. All right, so a lot of it's timing. Oh, we see. Sometimes distractions, sometimes you see squirrels. In addition to the recall, I'm setting a boundary, perimeter boundary. So all I do is step on it when they get a certain length away to kind of keep them in this radius. So when I'm not just doing recall this whole time, because I don't really want to keep calling and using the word come over and over again. Sometimes I want to just let them be dogs and just let the leash do the corrections and let the leash do the talking. And then other times when I want to call her to me, that's when I can still use the leash to follow through. Tilly, come. Good. Good. Release. Okay. Okay, this is Maggie. She is some sort of spaniel. Not good with the spaniels. Not sure how old she is. Also, my first lesson with her. Good. Trying to see if she has to go potty first. When I get these guys, I mean, you're seeing exactly what I do when I first get these guys out, especially if I've never seen them before. I already took her out on leash earlier to see if she would potty, and she didn't, so I'm going to, before we start training, I'm going to, there we go, good girl. She had to go. Okay. I don't really let these guys get too far ahead. I know the long line is super long, but in the beginning, when I'm still working on voice control and teaching them how to, like, come back when I don't have a treat, I don't let them get that far ahead. I don't know much about feet, but I'm guessing it's no more than 10, 15 feet away that I usually step on the leash and get them to just come back to me, and I'm just training them at certain thresholds every time, like right here. Every time she kind of runs off, the long line can self-correct, right? And I'm not saying anything. Okay, I could. I mean, I don't have to, but like I said, a lot of times less is more, because if we can't be specific enough and precise with how we talk to them, sometimes that can be worse off too. There. Copper, come. So you saw that eye movement, right? And then back. That was the first sign of ignoring, right? He looked at me and quickly looked away. Good. So all I'm going to do, I don't have to really do a whole lot of correcting. I do want him to sit. Good. But no treat, right? Especially, even though he listened, I'm still going to always make sure when he's with me and when he listens to me, I reward him, because I don't want him to be afraid of coming to me, even when he's wrong. And I think a lot of people that get frustrated even when they have to retrieve their dog back, if you're not setting it up correctly and you end up getting frustrated, your dog's going to feel that. So just make it nice and easy. Okay, free. And because even though he failed, the training still continues, because this is the best time to see if what you just did even worked, right? Did your dog view it as a consequence enough? Or do we need to do multiple repetitions? Regardless, we have to do anyway. But how has that worked? Because even if you make a correction, you do have to continue on and allow them to have that freedom again, to let them know you can still do this, but just know you have to listen every time, with or without a treat. But when he listens the first time, that's when he gets the treat. And again, I don't know if that's if they've worked with treats yet with him already, but that's how you get them to where you're not treating them all the time. The difference is you do treat them, make sure they're paid for listening. But if they don't listen, they don't get a treat. Right? They still have to listen. You just have to know how to make things happen by talking to them. Good boy. Okay, free. So again, I'm still going to give them the cues, same criteria. Every dog. 10 to 15 foot radius around me. Practice recalling them back and forth, catch and release. Treats if it's on the first try, using the leash, preferably with your foot, kind of get used to the technique of looping it, or just grabbing hold of it, popping it, getting them to finish that on their own, with or without a treat. Copper, come. Good. So no treat, right? Because I had to say Good. Okay.